post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD for short. I'll also talk about ways to deal with it and ways to live with it and what you can do to really help yourself if you're living with this very difficult condition. So those are the symptoms, but what can you do? I mean, is there anything that can really help alleviate? Well, a lot of studies have been done. Certain people that have good social support groups and good response efforts, like the government sending a bunch of doctors to provide mental health groups and, you know, therapy sessions and things like that, that really helps. The problem with us sending resources out to help the victims of these events is that after a certain amount of time, you know, these resources aren't, you know, forever. The resources are there temporarily to kind of buffer the effect of the traumatic event. And then they leave. So all of a sudden, the resources were there, everyone was getting mental health help, and now they're gone. So now you've taken away a resource. And this kind of eliminates the buffering of the benefit of having mental health resources altogether. Another thing is that, you know, having group sessions, meeting people who have been through similar things and have learned to cope and learned to live with it, that helps. Talking, therapy. I think therapy is super important whether you have a mental health condition or not. Even people without mental health issues need therapy. Why do you think that when something bad happens, we call our friends and all we want to do is cry about it and vent about it? That's what therapy is. You're just venting and you're expressing your emotions, and it's a safe place because there's no judgment when you're venting, and we all know this. So therapy is great. Other things you can do is accept the fact that you feel unsafe in your life, and that it's okay to feel that, and that it's normal to feel that. Because I will tell you something, if you've been through a traumatic event in your life that has made you feel so unsafe that it has permeated through the rest of your life, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just your body reacting and your brain reacting to protect you. Any kind of psychiatric illness, yes, it's an imbalance, but I also think it's the brain's way of trying to say, hey, something's wrong. I'm gonna do this because I'm afraid. So your brain is a very smart thing. It's a very smart machine, and it does things that are not okay with you. But you need to understand that you've been through something traumatic and your body is responding, and the only thing and the best thing you can possibly do is let it happen and find help to help you through it until it stops, if it stops. So a few studies were done in looking at how long after a traumatic event these symptoms persist. Sometimes you go years without experiencing PTSD after a traumatic event, and all of a sudden one day there's something that happens and oof, you have PTSD, you're diagnosed, and you have all these issues because of it. But maybe within 2-3 months you start having the symptoms of PTSD, you're diagnosed. 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, these symptoms may decrease and disappear entirely. So it may just be a temporary thing. But not everyone reacts the same. Some people actually have it for the rest of their lives and it never goes away, and they need treatment upon treatment and medication and therapy and sessions and group sessions and, you know, a lot of help for them to live with this disease. So it's definitely something that varies between person to person. No disease is the same in everyone. And this is something that is so important for you guys to understand, that just because you have a friend who's had PTSD for the longest time in the world does not necessarily mean you're gonna live with it the rest of your life too. And vice versa. You know, you can't compare your disease to someone else's because you are you, and that's what makes you special. You are unique. And your body will react in unique ways. There are, you know, things you can do aside from talking to group therapists and, you know, going into the whole healthcare system and getting support. There are things you yourself can do at home. Try to figure out what your triggers are. And this sounds easy, but it is not. Do not be fooled. Figuring out what a trigger is sometimes nearly impossible, because you think you're fine, and all of a sudden one day somebody drops something in the hallway or a door slams shut and you lose track of time, you black out, you think you're in the event, you become quiet, you zone out, and guess what? You never make the connection that it was the book or the door. It's just something that your subconscious mind heard in your environment, and bam, you have it. So it's okay not to recognize them all. Do not feel discouraged. If you do find out, then it's easier to talk about. It's easier to say, well, I had this symptom because this happened and that makes sense. And so you will feel like you are getting a little bit of, affirmation that you felt that way, not because of some random event in the day, but because something sparked it. So you can blame something. And sometimes placing blame on things actually helps you feel a little bit better. I mean, this isn't scientific. This is actually just my opinion. When you can blame something and find an explanation for something, it's a lot easier to deal with than wondering why, okay? So try to find the triggers if you can. Another thing you can do, decrease your amount of stress during the day. Any stress can cause more stress. So throughout the day, try to find times to relax, do physical exercise, eat healthy, be good to your body, be good to yourself, do checklists, set goals, short-term goals, goals that are easily achieved in that one day, and you will start to feel good about yourself because you can say, oh, I did that check, oh, I did that check, oh my God, wow, my day, all of a sudden I have all this time, I'm not stressed because I have done exactly what I set up to do today. So that also helps. Another thing, meditation and yoga. Should you, shouldn't you? Well, yes and no. It depends. Like I said, you are not the same as someone else. You're not the same as me, not the same as, anyone in my family or anyone in the world. You yourself are different. A lot of people react very, very well to meditation and yoga. It decreases their stress level. They can handle things better. They can cope better. They have better responses during stressful situations. Other people, on the contrary, have triggered an anxious event or a stressful event because they are just sitting there in the quiet and the silence, and they just have like this rush of thoughts and emotions, and they just get completely overwhelmed. So slowly try to figure out what works for you, and once it works for you, do it as much as you can to help your stress level go down. Okay, so those are a few tips that you can do at home to really help decrease your stress. Another thing you should know, if you're a parent and your child is less than 6 or 7 years old and something traumatic happened in their school, or they were molested, or there was a car accident, or their best friend passed away, or their grandfather who they were in love with and BFFs with passed away. Any type of traumatic event in a child is very different than a traumatic event in an adult. Children less than 6 or 7 that experience these traumatic events, they might start wetting the bed, or they'll forget how to speak. Literally, they forget how to speak or how to walk, or they lose skills that they once had before. They forget to do things. All these things are called regression. The traumatic event has made their brain want to regress into a younger age in their life. And so they lose skills that they had previously. And this is, something that you guys can pick up at home and be like, okay, something is definitely wrong. We need to go see someone because he didn't wet the bed before. All of a sudden he's wetting the bed. Something is wrong. It does not mean he's been molested. It means he experienced a trauma. Doesn't matter which. It could be anything. It could be simple, like the death of an animal that they loved. It could be anything. So just don't overreact either. Just, watch out for patterns. High school kids and young adults are quite different, and also older than 6 and 7, they're a bit different. So let's say they're older than 6 and 7, but they're starting to get into high school, they're in 9th, maybe 10th grade, they're angry, they get depressed, they cry for no reason, they start talking back to you, they start slamming doors, they start doing bad in school, they want to seek revenge. This is important, they want to seek revenge, remember that. Older high school, even 9th graders, whatever, and then all the way into young adulthood, they will react similar to adults. So PTSD symptoms. So these are things that, you guys should definitely know. Why am I talking about this? I think that PTSD is something that is very debilitating. People may or may not know too much about it, why it happens, what you can do to help. And it's really important to know that when any kind of traumatic event in the world happens, there are going to be mental health side effects, no matter what it is. PTSD is oftentimes linked with depression and anxiety. I know this is kind of like a dense, maybe even depressing, sad topic, but it's important to talk about what happens to your mental health when you have these kinds of things. One more thing I wanted to say. A study was done. It turns out that those who lost more property, had more property damage, had higher likelihood of getting PTSD. So obviously with everything that's been happening, this is why I'm talking about it. If you know someone who's been through a traumatic event, if you yourself have been through one, if you know someone with PTSD and you don't know what to do, send me an email, write to me, contact me. You know, I will direct you to where you need to go and what you need to do to help your friend, your family member, or yourself. I just want you to remember that if you do have PTSD or any other mental health condition, you are not alone. So many people have the same condition you do. And so it's important to reach out to your own community and find people who are living with this so they can help you live with yours. You don't have to do it alone. And I am also here to answer your questions. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. I know it was a little bit less happy and less, cheerful, but it's really important. So don't forget to subscribe so you can see my future posts and everything I'm gonna talk about in the future. As you can see, I received my Metalita scrub jacket, and I'm really excited to have it. So thank you, Metalita, for that. It has my name, my logo, and I'm really excited about this. Thank you guys again for subscribing and for liking and everything and writing to me and contacting me and asking me medical questions. I love your input and I love answering you and interacting with you. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, any critique, don't be afraid to leave them below. Like I said, don't like, or comment and subscribe. Do all of it. Follow me on Instagram. Do everything. I will see you guys next week. I wonder what I'll talk about then.